everybody again, first timers on the Vdonxt stage, so thank you Srikanth for inviting us. And thank you all for joining us again. The topic is a continuation of what Alon was talking about, and we've broadened it out to include Jalen, Portico Media, who runs OTT, Fotini from the Story Lab, and Sabrina from All3 Media, all of whom are involved obviously in the content business, but all have come at it from a slightly different angle. Some of the angles are quite new, like the Fotini Story Lab, so I think we'll kick off with a short introduction of what everyone does, just so that we have a discussion against some kind of backdrop. Fotini, do you want to start? Fotini.
So yeah, I'm Fotini. I'm working with the Story Lab in the global role. Story Lab is very new. In fact, we're kickstarting it this year in India. We've got a very strong, young and passionate team. So basically Story Lab is part of Dentsu Aegis Network. I recently joined myself about 3 months ago from Endemol Shine. And one of the reasons I joined us, I felt that they started up Story Lab again with passion. They have an aggressive strategy to grow content. So what we're doing is, it's very separate. Well, it's supposed to provide solutions for, part of it's the story side of the business for the advertising clients, but the main side that I look after is the lab business, where we just really create a new content business from scratch in today's environment. So what does that mean? That means we have our own very healthy fun, just like Keshet, and it's very, 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 very healthy. Where
how healthy?
It's very deep. So we don't really want to put a number on it, because for us it's about the projects and the possibilities and the potential. It's about investing in content, investing in partnerships, creators, producers, platforms, e-commerce platforms, opportunities, all opportunities around content and the IP. And just like Alon was saying, IP is key. So it's very fresh, it's very new. In India especially, we haven't done anything yet. But we are going to be doing things in the next few months. I have been in India actually for many years with my roles at Fremantle and Endemol Shine. So I'm going to be coming here quite often to work with our local team to grow the business, and from local to global. And our two focus markets in Asia are India and China, and very much working locally to go global in the content space.
Thank you. Sabrina?
So hi everyone. So I work for All3 Media Group, and I work in the section of All3 Media International. So a quick note for those of you who may not know the group really well. So we are a production group based in the UK. We currently have 28 production companies within the group. In addition of that, we have around 12 first look deal with independent companies. So we have, the core of the business is a production entity. Most of our production companies are based in the UK and the US. So most of the content we have is English speaking. But we also work with third-party producers, and increasingly we have invested into non-English speaking content and third-party producer content. So I set up 2.5 years ago the APAC office for the group, and the aim was to give a big push to the APAC region. First on the most direct and straightforward finished tape sales in Asia, also formats adaptation, scripted and non-scripted. But also more recently looking at partnership and investing into local content.
Co-production.
And co-productions, yes, correct.
Jay?
Hi everyone, from Portico Media. Portico Media is a media company based in Taiwan that does content aggregation and distribution. We represent about 20-some channels from NBC, Comcast, A&E, and Viacom. So we negotiate the deals, we get the licenses, we do the marketing. We also have a production arm that does a lot of content, including originals and services for our channel partners. And most importantly, at least right now, is 2 years ago, we launched Gaga La La, which is Asia's first LGBT movies online platform, OTT service, that currently has about 850 titles from around the world. And it's currently available in Southeast Asia, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, and hopefully can launch in India in the near future.
And let's now ask the specific questions. You've acquired and you're looking to acquire more LGBTQ, and I'm told there's another 2 letters to add to it at some point. So.
Gender fluid.
GF. Sorry, it's too much of a mouthful. Alon identified it as one of the trends, more diversity in production. You've already added some South Asian, Pakistan. What do you see as the opportunity to add Indian titles and to, in fact, co-produce or produce Indian titles for the OTT streaming?
Well, I definitely think LGBT content is becoming more and more mainstream. We only need to look at the recent wins from the Golden Globes with Bohemian Rhapsody, Killing Eve, Green Book. You saw took away the top prizes and also have done well box office-wise. If you look at the US maybe 10 or even 15 years ago, that was really not the case. And I do think that it's going to spill over to other parts of the world, including in Asia, starting probably in countries such as Taiwan, Thailand, Philippines, but it's going to spread just because it's women empowerment, it's LGBT, it's human rights empowerment, and I think that's kind of in line with everything that Alon said with the recent repeal of 377A. And so yes, we are looking to acquire more content from the South Asian territory to add to our current lineup. With our current lineup, we actually license from all aspects, from say terrestrial channels in the Philippines, from sales companies in Europe, from a lot of independent filmmakers and web producers that finally have found like a destination for their content that previously was not available in a lot of the Asian sort of mainstream platforms, including terrestrial, cable, and even OTT services. And so now there's a second life and a long life for a lot of this content. And even coming here, I don't really have any friends in Mumbai. It's my first time in India, but there were independent producers who have just kind of reached out to me via social media and say, hey, I have these content, I have these titles, so excited about it, could you take a look at it? So I think that content is definitely there, and once the word gets out that we're looking for this content, I think it will come. Coincidentally, actually, right now in Mumbai, it's Mumbai Pride Month. So I'm coming, I feel, at a good time for exploration.
Which I didn't know about Mumbai Pride Month, so I guess great. You all do, I mean, Jay's got a fund that is prepared to invest and crowdfund it. You all have money to spend. What, Fotini, for instance, would it take for an Indian piece of content to make it around the table to get some of that money?
I think it was what Alon again was talking about. It's all about the idea and how that story is going to be told. I mean, from our perspective, we do have a healthy fund, and from the past advertising history, we have very strong partnerships with platforms and payers in the local market. So from my perspective, it's about an idea, a story that's relevant to the local market first. But then when I'm looking at something that has potential to travel globally, so it's always local, but with a view to go global. Because what we're trying to do is create this global development pipeline and a bank of stories that can travel, we can share with our other territories and partners, and perhaps try and seek funding from other areas. So we have that distribution network. So it's about sourcing the idea, plus then the great talent and creators that come along with that. And then I think we're prepared to invest from the onset. So we could be investing in an idea and then funding development for scripting. We're already doing that in the UK. We have 5 projects in scripted development. We've invested and taken a share of the IP, and one in particular has now been taken on by Apple. So we're looking at, and they're all kind of at the moment quite edgy, very relevant, you know, sort of different types of stories, because we're not really going to try and compete with the likes of BBC or ITV or other big players. We're trying to find our niche, and our niche at the moment is relating to those more urban, grittier stories in the market and younger audiences, I think.
And it has absolutely nothing to do with Dentsu's advertisers. This is a completely
Absolutely nothing.
independent. So you're not looking at branded content?
No. Obviously there is that side of the business, but that side is very established. So what has been happening, obviously, as advertising budgets go down, the company as a whole is looking at other areas to invest in, and this is purely investment in entertainment. And when I say entertainment, it's non-scripted, scripted, and also film. So it's purely just how to get in that game through IP ownership.
So for all three, I mean, the catalogue is quite diverse. We have around 11,000 of active hours, so that kind of hours that travel. And I would say the most of it is a lot of lifestyle and scripted. I mean, drama is probably what we've invested the most over the past few years. Out of our investment that All3 Media put directly from his own pocket into content, obviously a big part of it is in drama. See the budget being very different. So to give you an idea, last 2017 we had around 14 drama. Last year we had 19 new drama, and most of them are between the £1 million per episode budget to something like White Dragon, around $4.5 million an episode. So they have big budgets. So obviously a big part of it will go into drama. If we're looking into a project, it can be unscripted. If it's not scripted, it has to be lifestyle or docs. And unscripted, I think we are well known for a little bit edgier content, thing that people are going to talk about, maybe a bit rooted in issues in nowadays society. So that's in a way, I wouldn't go for something that is completely out of what we do, like a telenovelas or something like that people would do it much more than we do. And I do see an opportunity because, I mean, the numbers I mentioned in terms of production budgets have required that we've looked into more co-production. So mainly between the UK and the US, or UK and Europe or Australia. But with a fraction of that production budget, there are some fantastic production that can take place in Asia. So I see a big opportunity to invest some content here with a production budget of over $500,000 and end up with fantastic productions.
And one of the shows you just mentioned, White Dragon, was actually filmed in Hong Kong, so you don't have any geographic bias towards the UK or the US or Australia. It can be funded from anywhere and shot anywhere, any kind of story, really.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's very recent. We wouldn't have had this conversation 2.5 years ago for sure. So why is change? First, we've acquired a lot of high-end drama companies. Also, the clients have changed slightly, right? So we also produce a lot, or co-produce a lot with Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu. And so the stories have to be a little bit more global. So most of the productions we have still have UK broadcasters on board, which is great to obviously get a big chunk of that production budget. But so White Dragon, it was a ITV commission. Amazon came in as a co-producer very early on, but only took some part of the world as negotiation. We also put in some directly into the pot, which helped retaining some of those rights. And it was shot 80% in Hong Kong. So. And the original two broadcasters were ITV and Amazon US. So another example would be Mystery Roads. It's a production from a third party, so not at all within the All3 Media group. Two directors who normally do feature movies. They've done some great projects, and we thought, we just read the script, loved it, and we invested it, and 40% of the production of this.
We were talking earlier about what would bring India into this fold. So how would Indian production houses, Indian producers participate more proactively in this global content creation? And Jay, you had some ideas, some infrastructure ideas that would help build that bridge between India and the rest of the world.
Well, for our Bangla originals, actually, we've been, because we're in these 13 territories, what we have been doing is going to these territories and identifying the interested and capable producers and directors we can rely on to tell their local stories, and then we give them the budget, we co-produce with them, and we create these locally relevant but regionally sort of appealing content that they can travel around the region. We also have been proactively looking for co-production partners. For example, like the Tale of Lost Boys that we did, which was a co-production with the Philippines several years ago. that got limited theatrical release in the Philippines, did very well on our platform, and has been sold to like 10 countries in the West and North America. So we're hoping to parlay kind of like the resources around the region and partner up in a way that is very different than anything else because the community is very vibrant and thirsting for an opportunity to actually get their stories to be told and have a platform that can release. But more,
you also, sorry, you also have you've got the funding and then you've got the crowdsourced resources.
Right.
Crowdfunded
crowdsourcing,
resources.
yeah. So next month we're launching a revolutionary platform called Gold Studios, and the purpose for Gold Studios is to allow projects leaders or filmmakers or directors from around the world to actually host their project and details of that project on our platform, and then we in turn push that information out to film professionals in the LGBT community to see who will be interested to coming on as brand sponsors, like maybe like Dentsu, or financiers, or maybe as talent, whether it's actors or directors. And it's very geographic specific. So, for example, someone can actually go to the platform and search for a project that is potentially going on in Mumbai or Phuket and get involved that way with the project. So we are allocating a fund, much smaller, I would assume, than the deep fund, but hopefully that could revolutionize the way that LGBT films get financed, packaged, and distributed in the world.
And there's another thing we're talking about, which is co-production, if not treaties, co-production alliances between countries that help pave the way for all the paperwork. What do you see?
Well, I'm based in Taiwan, but before coming to Mumbai, I was just in Shanghai, and I was talking to friends there, and I think next to US Hollywood, Indian films are like number 2 in terms of the box office, and practically every month now there is an Indian film that does extremely well in the box office, in tens of millions, or even Dangal is like in the hundreds of millions. And that's in a smaller scale. It's happening in Taiwan as well. And just talking to some of the media professionals here, I know Indian content, TV dramas, etc., have been also traveling quite well in places like Thailand and Vietnam. And I think just to spurge on this co-production possibility, I think the first step is to actually get the producers or the filmmakers or the film commissions or the government agencies to actually dialogue more and to create these opportunities for them to share potential scripts or potential co-production opportunities with each other, and just kind of allow things to happen organically. And I totally believe it will.
What do you think would be if not the tipping point, the fact that pushes this over into like mass, large-scale production out of India?
I mean, export, in terms of
Export.
I think it's really exciting times. We've all been talking about how it's exploded here. It's a lot more open, a lot more accessible, and there's definitely potential. I think it's going to take a little bit more time to really compete with the US or the UK, but I don't think we're too far away. I think there's some great creators, great producers here, but not enough, to be honest. And there's a lot of platforms and a lot of avenues, and I think people here are chasing their tails quite a lot. And there has to be a bit more, I guess, because the industry is so new. I mean, with Netflix and Amazon, not Bollywood, obviously the industry is still there, but the avenues are new and fresh, and the way of making content is different. There's a little bit of catching up in that sense, but it's catching up so quickly, very, very soon they'll be there. I think there are some issues, things to look at in terms of how the international industry works outside of India. I think there's some learnings there that need to be done, but that's why I think it's very interesting and relevant that people like us keep coming here to share our knowledge and expertise of what is happening outside and how we can marry and bring India into the fold of the international industry. Because there are some things in terms of deal making and certain styles that, I think just need to move in another direction to make that happen. But we're not too far off, and just on Jay's point, Indian content is already traveling, not just in Asia, in the UK, US, we're really seeing that, but that's more, it has been until this point in the West towards the Indian diaspora. But in Asia, in Indonesia, there's been a huge industry there in terms of actors have been coming and acting in Indonesian dramas. So it's not too far off, but there's still a little bit of catching up to do, and I would say in the next few years they're going to give other territories a run for their money.
I mean, India is one of the most exciting places to be at the moment. I met so many people in the past few days that were living abroad and they're like, wow, we have to be back in India, that's the place to be. There's so many opportunities, it's incredibly exciting. The competition that is happening at the moment across all the platforms is creating a need for creativity and opportunities, which is fantastic from our point of view. So I think there is a few ways. A lot of people have contacted me recently to wanting to collaborate on existing IP. More than ever really before. So on some of our scripted drama that have had a lot of awards, I mean last year only I think we had around 30 global awards on our dramas. So I think it's a quick way to fix that need, because there's so much demand at the moment that actually the creative industry is, I mean, in lack of even writers and producers and directors, which is, I mean, it's a great place to be, right? So I think that's the first thing. So people have been in contact to say, hey, we've got great talents here, but we need some great IP to be able to catch up for the demand. And also I think there is some interest to collaborating internationally, because we may have some access that we have built over the past few years already with some global players or co-production. So we have some expertise and there is some fantastic talent here, so I think there is some benefit on both sides. We've talked also a little bit earlier on duration of drama, which I think is something very interesting.
My next question, carry on, go ahead.
So obviously in the UK, drama duration and series tend to have 4, 6, 8 episodes. If you're lucky, 10 is woo. It's amazing. Episodes per series, and a lot of territories is very little, especially in Asia. But actually, for some big players, it's something that is very popular. It's not a massive commitment from the audience to get onto a 60 hours drama, and it's obviously a longer engagement than a feature. So there is a need at the moment for that kind of 6 to 8, 10 hours, which is also why I think we've had a lot of success recently on some of these key drama that are that duration, where maybe in the past Indian writers and directors were maybe not as much. Obviously Bollywood movie, we're not going to teach anything to that industry, and long running series either. So I think there is that maybe a little bit of a gap there, which is obviously they will catch up, but it's something slightly newer for I think the Indian producers and writers.
And that's, I would think, but I'll ask you, that's been heavily influenced by the OTT platforms, where viewers don't necessarily want to make a 60-hour commitment, and nobody wants to drop 60 episodes all at once. So it's a 6-episode, 10-episode. That's a binge experience. It's a weekend viewing. How has, and obviously it's changed, as you said, the miniseries. But how does that change, including the short form, the way you approach any market? Would you take short form drama? Would you do the kind of thing that Keshet is doing with the Snap, the Dead Girls Detective Agency?
Would we? Yes. I mean, if there is the right commission at the moment, I think the budget, we've maybe been very lucky that we've just been working overall on quite high budgets, and at the moment there is maybe a little bit of less budget on shorter form. But we have few production companies within the O3 group that are digital production companies. Mainly so far they've done a lot of non-scripted work, but we are looking at the moment are also shorter form content for scripted. It's just maybe opportunities on the large scale has just been a little bit less, and it's just starting. We're doing also some work with Facebook Watch and all of that. So
Facebook Watch is another one I think is doing stuff for India as well.
Yes.
And we have about 2 minutes left. I want to ask each of the panelists, as a final question, what do you see as your challenges, not necessarily in India, but I would like it to be India-centric. What do you see as the challenges for 2019?
I think since we're so new here, and the content that we are distributing is considered niche and alternative, and maybe even controversial, so understanding how to parlay in the regulations and how to be culturally aware and politically, socially aware is obviously a big priority. And second is understanding the pricing. I think yesterday in your panel, there was someone who recommended that doing sachet pricing is an absolute must to penetrate. And I think we, as a subscription service that has similar to Netflix, kind of like a similar rate all throughout, need to be a lot more aware of how to price properly in order to be successful in this market. So those are two challenges for us.
Yeah, mine is very simple, getting people to understand what StoryLab is and does in the local market. We've just started, and I think as a company we haven't been very good at that, but what has been good, we hired recently people like myself in the actual content industry, which gives us more credibility. And just basically getting out there and getting some runs on the board. You know, there's all the passion and initiative and positivity, and I think India is very can-do and entrepreneurial spirit, everything that I see internally at Dentsu Aegis. So we just need to get out there. You know, we've spent the last 3 months talking about plans, focus and strategy, and now that I'm here, it's just like we need to do things. So we've had some really good meetings, and I think we're getting some deals done, but once we get out there, get some runs on the board and can see what everyone can see what we're really doing and who we are, I think we should go from there. The other one thing I would like to say is it's not a challenge, but it's an advantage. There are so many players here and so many creators, and one good thing about us is that we're platform and partner agnostic. So we're open to working with anyone on any piece of content and any partner. So it's a great opportunity, and looking forward to meeting more people.
Challenge. So I think there is still a little bit of educating producers or platforms on how much All3 has changed in the past 2 or 3 years and how big we've become, how big player we are now. Maybe to touch upon the rights a little bit, I know we discussed that a little bit. I think also there is some challenges in terms of rights management and IP, especially now with a lot of the players wanting global rights. So obviously there is a fantastic opportunity to get a show produced, which is great. It's the first fantastic step as a producer. That's just what we want. We want to get a commercial broadcaster. But I think to take it to the next level of getting bigger budgets, bigger revenue on the back end, you need to retain some rights. Not just us, but the producer themselves.
I couldn't agree more, because until you own your rights, you can't really build your business. You're just lurching from project to project, like work for hire. And on that note, thank you very, very much for joining us, Jay, Fotini, Sabrina, and thank you all.